Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Slimline Stencils and also the new Anita Jeram June 2021 release. I'm going to be sharing 4 different cards and sharing some tips and tricks on using Slimline stencils not only for slimline cards, but also for an A2 sized card. So I was sharing that I used this Slimline Waves stencil on a previous card, that narwhal card I just showed. I will link to that in the description here on YouTube underneath this video. I die cut a rectangle using the largest Slimline nested rectangle die from Simon Says Stamp, and now I'm going to be taking the Slimline Wave and we're going to be doing something a little bit different than what you saw me do in that previous video, where we're going to stencil a part of this on our background, but not the entire thing. We're going to do more of a scene building as far as not using the stencil for the entire panel. So this is just another way to use that slimline style. I'm going to use a little masking tape, some sort of a masking product. You can use even a sticky note or something of that nature. And I am going to mask off just a little bit of like the top portion of my panel. And then I'm going to tape that slimline stencil to my cardstock. And we're going to ink up a good chunk of that middle section with both Lake Shores and Sea Glass Simon Says Stamp inks. So just kind of some nice soft bluish inks today. I'm using some Gina K ink blending tools to apply that ink directly to my cardstock. And like I said, I picked very light colors. I wanted the background for this first card to be kind of soft and pretty. So all my ink choices are definitely going to be a little bit more on the soft side. I'm not going to worry about bringing the ink all the way to the bottom of the panel. We're going to cover that up with a die cut border. I'm kind of creating our own beachy border. That masking tape is going to then protect the top portion of my panel so that I can finish the scene here with another stencil, which I'll show you here in just a minute. This one little section on the Slimline Wave tends to want to move around, so I'm just kind of being really gentle and also holding it down. When you peel up the stencil, we're left with this nice, soft, pretty ocean type of look. I'm going to lift up my Post-it tape and I'm going to then move it down to cover up the waves, leaving the top of the panel free. I'm also going to remove the rest of my tape from my panel and clean up any blue ink that might be on my work surface as well as my stencil and move all of that out of the way. Next, we're going to use the Build a Rainbow stencil, which I know you guys have probably seen me use a lot if you are subscribed to my channel. If not, please definitely subscribe right now. This is a fantastic stencil because there's so many things you can do with it. And the sun in this is one of my very favorites. So we're actually going to take some Lawn Fawn butter ink and we are going to ink up a sun right along that Post-it tape border. So it's going to look like it's right there at the horizon line of our ocean. And then I am going to add just a little soft blue ink all the way around the edges. I'm not even masking off the sun or anything like that. And it's going to be super soft. I just took Sea Glass and it's a very, very soft application. This is a very light ink anyway, but it just provides a nice little bit of blue to the sky. Then we're going to take the sun rays from the Build a Rainbow stencil And we are going to build those sun rays all the way around. Again, very soft yellow, nothing harsh. This is just kind of the supporting cast that's going to help with the story we're going to tell here with the A Fox's Life stamps and dies from the Anita Jeram June 2021 release. So many good new stamps and dies part of this release. I know if you guys are fans of Anita Jeram, you are going to love, love, love everything here. I just really am a huge fan, and so it's always such a pleasure to be able to get to work with these fantastic products. And just kind of a light application. I don't even want my sun to be perfect. I love how this looks on a slimline style card too. When I remove that Post-it tape, you can kind of start to see the vision of this background scene take shape. Now I took a layered hills die, and I did die cut just a partial rectangle using that slimline nested rectangle from a scrap of white cardstock, and from the top of that I am going to use this layered hills die. Any kind of layering or border die like this will work. I had this out for another project, so it was handy. And then I'm going to take some warm buff ink from Pink Fresh Studio, again a nice light color, and we're going to give a very, very light application of this ink to this little bottom portion of our panel. This of course is going to serve as our beachy border along the bottom edge of the slimline panel. So I did a little bit heavier application of the ink along the top edge, and then going to give a light application down near the bottom. I actually ink smudged it right there, which will be okay. I'm going to cover that up with my image, but my finger must have had a little brown ink on it. So let's go ahead and attach the border to the bottom of our panel. And then we're going to stamp the image we're using for this card. It is from the 4x6 A Fox's Life stamp set. You'll notice that I have not only that, but the other image from A Fox's Life stamped here on some Bristol Smooth cardstock using Lawn Fawn Jellyfish No Line Coloring ink. And this is because I'm going to be creating two separate cards with both of the images from this set. So you get both of these images and you get 5 different sentiments in the set. Really, really great. These foxes are darling. Really cute additions to the collection. So I started by going ahead and coloring some of the sand in the image with oatmeal and vanilla Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. The foxes are going to be colored with brown, light brown, vanilla, and then a little pink haze for the inside of the ears. And I love how this guy is holding up a seashell to his friend, and the friend is leaning into it to listen to the ocean or whatever. I think it's just really cute and clever. So in between the two fox images, there is more beach and rocks and all of that good stuff. This is one of those dies. I know I mentioned this a lot in any video I use, the Colorado Craft Company Anita Jeram images, that they make their dies so that they really die cut close to the image, which I love. However, this really is more of the outline. Yes, it's going to go around all the little rocks and nooks and crannies, but between the two images, it does not die cut any of that space. Well, how I want to place this on my card, I really need to have a portion of that be ocean to line up with my background stenciling. So I actually went ahead and die cut it, and then I'm going to finish coloring it in. I rarely do it this way, but I think it's going to work better just for coloring in the rest of my sand. So I'm going to take my panel, I'm going to take my image, and I'm just going to lightly color in that area that needs to to be blue with a haze blue marker. I think that's going to be close enough to the ink I used for the background, and hopefully I matched that up close enough that it will give the illusion of the beach and then the water in between the two images. Again, and pardon me, also I'm going to color in the rest of the sand before I do the other fox. The browns are kind of like not as bad as a red, because definitely if you even touch red with another color, it bleeds. But I don't want to run the risk of any of that color kind of bleeding into the sand. So I went ahead and colored the rest of that with oatmeal and vanilla before skipping on over and doing my second fox image. And then just kind of outlining the image with brown. That's definitely the heavier or the darker color of the two. And then we're going to go in and kind of just add some heavier color in certain areas that can pull out a little more of that. And then we're going to take our light brown marker and just pull the color away from the line out into the rest of the image. And then finally finish with our vanilla marker, blending it all out and giving that nice variation in color throughout the design. So I just kind of go around the edges, pulling that color out. For the seashell, we're going to use mid-brown, oatmeal, and vanilla. Just kind of a deeper, darker, neutral color. There's not a ton of color in this image, but that's okay because our background has the blues and the yellows, and it all is going to go together, I think. And then the rest of the rocks are platinum brown and warm gray 2. And just really quick outline of platinum brown and then blending out with warm gray 2. And then there is like a little clamshell tucked in the sand, some additional seashells. So you'll see there's going to be an image that will be colored with like mustard. And then I think I blended it with vanilla, and then a couple more with mid-brown and oatmeal. Just want to make sure we get all of the little images colored in. We want to make sure that the fox's whiskers, nose, eyes, anything like that, we go back in with a black fine tip pen and draw those in before we take this over to our card and start putting it all together. So we've built the background basically. We've colored in our image. We already have it die cut. It's time for sentiments and embellishing. So just a few little finishing details. And of course, drawing that in. I'm going to back this entire image with foam adhesive squares. We're going to pop it up to give it just a little bit more dimension. I like that for especially a flat background like this is. But before I attach it, I had it all backed with foam adhesive, and I realized I probably should stamp my sentiment first. I was really excited to get my scene built apparently. So let's go ahead and grab our Misty, place our background in the Misty, and then the larger sentiment that reads, "We are like seashells upon the beach, beautiful and unique, each with a story of its own to tell." And that is going to be inked with the Lakeshores ink and stamped a couple times there for a tone-on-tone effect. The rest of our sentiment is going to be "To a Special Friend," which is going to kind of straddle the line, the horizon line, and I'll show you that in a minute. I went ahead and attached my image with the foam adhesive. Let's go back to our Misty. I have a scrap piece of white cardstock here. We're going to mask off the bottom part of the word for the bottom part of the phrase for "To a Special Friend," and stamp the top portion with Lawn Fawn No. 2 pencil ink, which is a little bit darker yellow ink. The butter ink is not going to show up great, so I just went with this because I knew it would show up but still give that sunshiny illusion. And then the word friend is going to be stamped again with the Lake Shores ink. And that is going to match. The reason I stamped each line of text with a different color is because this has a coordinating die with it. We're going to die cut this, and when we adhere it to our card background with foam adhesive, we're going to adhere it such that the to a special is above the horizon line over the sun, and friend is going to be in the ocean part of the card, so that's going to be the blue part. And I just thought it would kind of flow with the design of our card a little bit better. Look how cute that is. I love it. I'm going to finish the card with a scattering of these Trinity nope, I'm so sorry. These are the Little Things droplets in pool hearts. So Lucy's Little Things. And I love the blue color of these and how they look on this card design. We'll add this to a 3.5 by 8.5 card base, and it's all finished. Next, I'm going to share how you can use a slimline style stencil on an A2 sized card. We're going to start by die cutting some smooth white cardstock with a basic rectangles die. This is going to be probably, I think it's probably 3 1/4 by 5 inches if I'm not mistaken. If you just want to trim it, you can do that as well. If you don't have rectangle dies or these specific ones, anything like this will work. And definitely, since it's an easy shape, you can trim it. I'm going to ink up the background then with some Caribbean blue ink from Simon Says Stamp, concentrating most of the ink in the upper portion of this background. We're going to be covering the bottom of the panel with another die cut and inked border, so we don't need to worry about adding any ink there. I'm going to concentrate the darker part of the panel kind of towards where the landscaping is going to go and use a lighter hand up near the top. Let's go ahead and just clean up our work surface before we grab our slimline stencil. So these stencils are so cool. I love the whole fading line of stencils from Simon Says Stamp, but maybe you don't want to create a slimline style card. Well, you can take a portion of the stencil and stencil that right on your A2 sized panel. So in this case, I am using some Deep Sea ink and Caribbean blue ink. I used a combination of both. I kind of did Caribbean blue, which is the same color as the background first, and then a little Deep Sea, and it ended up perfect for this tone-on-tone starry night. Then I'm going to color in the remaining image from A Fox's Life. We're going to color our fox exactly like we did for the previous card with brown, light brown, and vanilla. I love how he's looking up at the sky. Now I'm going to be creating this starry night sky with a moon in it for a certain reason. I decided I wanted to use the sentiment from A Fox's Life stamp set that reads, "No matter what our differences are, we all look at the same moon," a quote by Katrina Mayer. And what I love is I wanted my scene to reflect that sentiment. So that is kind of the idea behind the night sky background. And then of course, we're going to be adding a little moon to the background as well. I'm coloring in my tree with mid-brown and oatmeal. And then the leaves are going to be mid-green and olive green. The grass is going to be a little mid-green and pale dawn gray. Super quick coloring. I love the little tree. Now, part of the reason that I opted for an A2 size card for this is because the tree naturally has an ending point up at the top. And I didn't want to have just kind of this open tree, like where's it go? Unless I wanted to add some greenery or something, a tree topper. You could definitely do that too if you wanted to maybe extend this into a slimline or a longer card, but I wanted to use it as is, and so I really felt like I needed the smaller size, either a slimline, or not a slimline, an A2 size card or a mini slimline, something to that effect. So I went with a standard card because with these stencils, I always love to find a way to kind of extend the life. So even though they say they're made for slimline, you can definitely use them on your other sizes of cards. We'll die cut this awesome image with the coordinating die. It die cuts so precise, so close to the whole thing. I love it. And then we're kind of just planning out on another rectangle where we want to die cut our border. And this is from that Simon Says stamp die collection that we used from the layered hills from our first card. I die cut 2 from another rectangle. This time I inked up the edge with Lawn Fawn Artichoke ink, and then the moon is also from that same die collection, and that was inked with both butter and number 2 pencil Lawn Fawn inks. Let's take our panel and stamp our sentiment right there on the sky. The one with the moon phrase, it just kind of perfectly fits there over on the right side. We're going to stamp this with clear embossing ink and heat emboss with white embossing powder. I'm going to prep my cardstock first with a powder tool. And then we're inking it up. And even at that, I still didn't get the best stamped impression. I must not have pressed firmly enough. I always leave my sentiment though in my MISTI. I'm just going to go straight back and stamp it again. Much better, and then we're going to heat set that. Now, just like our previous card where I used To a Special Friend, I'm going to use that same phrase for this one right above it. I love that it has the coordinating die. We're going to stamp that with a little Deep C Simon Says stamp ink and die cut it with the coordinating die to place right above this stamped and embossed image. I love the white embossing on the blue background though. I think it shows up so pretty and it fills in that open space really, really nicely. I have glued my Anita Jeram image in place. We're going to glue the moon down now. I'm just putting an acrylic block on top of that to help hold it flat while the glue dries. Here is that To a Special Friend sentiment. I'm stamping with Deep Sea ink. And then I am popping it up with a little foam adhesive just like before, and then we'll finish this card with a scattering of tiny gold star confetti. The stars definitely kind of pick up the star feel of our stenciled background. That's why I picked them. And then we will place this entire thing on a white top fold card base. It has a fantastic white border then all the way around that ties into the white outline of our die cut images, as well as our stamped and embossed sentiment and our stamped greeting. Look how much fun that is. Isn't that a beautiful image? So my next card is going to feature a rainbow stenciled background, of course, because what is a video without a little rainbow in it lately, I guess. But I love this, and I picked rainbow for a specific reason. This is an art-themed stamp set we're featuring. This is a new stamp set. Again, all of these stamps and dies are new. This is the Fading Circles stencil from Simon Says Stamp, also new. Let's talk about that first, and then we'll talk about the stamp set when we get to the coloring. But what I did was I took several of my favorite colors of Hero Hues reactive inks. We've got Taffy, we have Fruit Punch, Creamsicle, Lemon Drop, Key Lime Fizz, Pool Party, and Splash. So that's going to make up our rainbow of fading dots. And this could be done with any stencil. This is probably the least kind of quote unquote scene style card that I'm creating today. I'm not really adding like a landscape bottom or anything like that. We're letting the rainbow background kind of tell the story with the images we're using. And because we're using an art themed image, I really felt the rainbow was a fantastic way to go, because I love really art themed or craft themed cards with that rainbow feel to them. And then this is one of my favorite rainbow color combinations as well with these inks. I love them. I know I have gotten many questions about them, both like in my DMs and publicly, you know, questions on YouTube or Instagram or my blog or whatever. Do you actually love the Hero Arts inks? Yes. I really do love them. They are bright, they are happy, they ink blend beautifully, they stamp beautifully. I very highly recommend them. When I remove this stencil, look at that beautiful effect of those little fading dots. I love it. And then we're going to skip to the Art Is stamp set now. This is the main image from the Art Is stamp set. So you're getting the large image of the big bunny painting whatever kind of image you want here. You could either put text on here, you could put images on here from other stamp sets. I'm actually going to do a bunny, but I'm going to do this a little bit different, so I'm not going to add anything to my canvas yet. There is an owl in this stamp set. And what is the other critter? Why can't I think of it? And it's off the camera. Oh, a squirrel. So you could put those either like hanging out down around the image if you've got room on the kind of card you're creating, as more like spectators or critters watching this bunny paint his masterpiece, or you can use them on the canvas, or like I said, you can go to some of your other Anita Jeram stamp sets and grab an image from that to put on the canvas. There's just a lot you can do. So I ended up coloring my bunnies in different colors today because I thought that would be fun. Our big bunny here, he's going to be beige and medium beige with pink haze. And then all of the wood from the easel that the canvas is on is going to be mid-brown and beige. And I'm just going to kind of outline all of that up first and color it in. So much coloring in the video today, but you guys know, if you have followed me for a while, I love it. These were definitely not all done in one sitting. So I've piecemealed this video together over a few days worth of work, but love doing all of these and finding fun ways to use slimline stencils. So I know that this kind of effect is one that is super easy to achieve because it's basically just using that stencil as is on a slimline style base. We're going to be filling in everything here. Now in this stamp set, there's also 2 paint brushes that I just adore. I did not stamp those to start with. I kind of forgot. So we're going to go back and do that here in a minute. Just another little note, with the face detail on your critters, don't forget to go in with a black fine tip pen or whatever kind of pen you like to use and draw that back in, because it instantly brings their face to life. For my canvas, I outlined it with a little oatmeal color ink, and then we're going to blend out with vanilla, and it's very, very light. Not only does this look canvasy in my mind, but I need it to be light because of what I'm going to stamp on it in a little bit. And I want that to be colored and be drying before I stamp on it. For our two little bunnies sitting here in rapt attention to what their big bunny is doing, this is Platinum Brown and Warm Gray 2. Little dark nose, little eyes. How cute are these guys? I just think they're so adorable. Let's color in our other one really quick. Cute little bunny tails, which I actually just kind of left. I traced out with the Platinum Brown and just kind of dotted in some detail with Warm Gray 2 and didn't really like color them. And then the paint palette, also going to be Platinum Gray with Warm Gray 2. Very light though. I'm not adding loads of color. That's more just an outline, get that shape in there. And then of course, all of our little paint palette, I'm going bright. I know that we're going to have a bunny on this canvas. I probably should have gone and found something bright like a rainbow or something to put on here, but I didn't. So I have his paint palette all in bright colors. All of my favorite color combinations. I know they're on the screen there, but I have listed them on my blog post as well, so definitely check that out if you need to see it a little bit slower. And then we're going to have a little red paint dipping off of the tip of his paintbrush up here that he's holding. Maybe he's going to paint a red heart or flower border around the bunny, who knows. And yes, there's no bunny there yet, but there will be. This is another image that the die cutting is just a-okay. The die that goes with this is going to die cut all of the little nooks and crannies, which is amazing. So good, because when you place this on your background, you're still going to be able to see those great fading rainbow dots in the background, where with a lot of companies, they would not have all the little die cut areas like around the large bunny's face, next to the canvas, underneath the easel, all of that stuff. There are little die cut openings everywhere, so you're still seeing your little dots in the background. I love that feature from these dies. We've got our little paint rag over here hanging off of the easel. There's another paintbrush on the easel. And then there's like the little jar of cleaning water down below. I'm going to do a little shadow mauve here, and then I'm going to fill it with red. Just kind of like he's cleaning the tip of his paintbrush in this jar down here. And then of course I did do a green landscape around the feet, and then I die cut it, and we're stamping a bunny from Art Is right there on the canvas. Look at that cute little owl. I really couldn't decide what to do, and I ultimately decided on the bunny, but I almost did that owl because I think he's so cute. And then just color him in, add a little color with my Platinum Gray and a little Warm Gray 2 on top. And look how the color goes right on top of what we've already done. It is perfection. I'm so happy with how that turned out. We're just gonna, again, draw in face detail for our painting. And there we go. Now I am going to pop this up with foam adhesive like I did for my first card. I think that just kind of helps bring it up off of those fading dots. We're going to use the large Art Is What You Make It sentiment from the Art Is stamp set. We're going to stamp that right there at the top of the panel with black ink. And then I knew there was another art set in the Anita Jeram collection. It is the Love Art stamp and die set. It has the mice in it, and I used it for a previous release video for a card, and I love it. And it would be one that you could use with this to really build a fun scene as well. If you wanted to use all of these, if you're doing quite a bit bigger card or a trifold card or something of that nature, because oh my gosh, more cute painting critters. And I'm going to use some sentiments from this. I'm not actually going to use the images today, but I am going to use sentiments. And then this is the individual paintbrushes from the Art Is stamp set. I'm going to stamp one of them twice. I did not do it on camera. You can see I'm adding like the paint to the tip of the brush and then kind of feathering in the beige color of the bristles. And then adding all of the detail for our brushes. So what these are going to be is kind of a natural divider. I love the image, number one. And that is another thing. You can use that with the Love Art stamp set that we're going to take our extra sentiments from, or any other kind of stamp set that has some art stuff. I think that would be cute. But it's going to be a natural separator from the top part of our sentiment, and then the rest of the sentiment we're going to add. And pardon my messy bun hair. I'm trying to line up my sentiments. We're going to stamp Masterpiece in the Making from Love Art. We're going to stamp that right below Art Is What You Make It. Then we're going to leave a space for our paintbrushes, and we're going to stamp Thank You for Sharing Your Love of Art with Me from Love Art as well. I forgot to mention that that I stamped in one of the fading circles is from the Love Is stamp set. So Art Is. I think I said Love Is. I meant Art Is. Sorry, you guys. Looking at the wrong stamp set. Art Is. So that is where that's from. And then we're going to put our paintbrushes right here in between these phrases. I love how that just kind of fills in the space. It kind of gives it a little bit of that storybook feel that I'm such a fan of. And just finishes off this card perfectly. The last thing, we're not actually going to add any extra embellishments to this design. We're going to take this panel, pop it on a slimline card base, and it is going to be all finished. I didn't get enough adhesive on the back of these little paintbrushes, so. Isn't the detail on these great? I really love these. Very fun. I know you guys are going to love this Art Is stamp set. For my final card today, we're going to do another slimline, but this time we're going to be creating some little windows, and we're actually going to do some layering. Layering with a masking stencil and a slimline stencil to create 3 separate windows. I thought the images from the Happily Ever After stamp set, which is a 6x8 stamp set included in this release. June weddings, you guys. Perfect for all of those summer weddings. So what we're going to do is take the Hero Arts alignment tool slimline stencil and tape that to our die cut rectangle. I use that slimline rectangle die again, and we are going to ink up our windows lightly. I'm using a light ink too, and I'm going mostly around the edges with my ink. This is the Ballet Slippers ink from Lawn Fawn, and we're just creating these light pink windows of color. And then on top of that, we're going to ink. I started with a little Ballet Slippers, but I think I mostly turned into some Hot Lips ink. What we're going to do, without removing our alignment stencil, we are going to take the Fading Hearts stencil. So if you have the big version kind of this stencil that Simon Says Stamp came out with a couple of years ago, it's one of my all-time favorites. And I'm so stinking excited that they came out with a slimline version. I love, love, love this. I'm going to tape it in place right on top of the alignment stencil and ink through that with my Hot Lips ink. And what this is going to do is it's going to create 3 quote-unquote windows of stenciled design. This is a super quick and easy way to create a very eye-catching background, and it's yet another way to use a slimline stencil in a little bit different way. So instead of covering the entire background with our stencil, we're instead just taking little parts and pieces of that stencil without having to do a ton of, figuring out and masking off. We're not having to do any of that. We're just positioning it once and then inking through it. Let's remove that stencil first, the Fading Hearts, and then we'll remove the alignment stencil, and then the magic happens. Look at that. Isn't that so much fun? I love these little windows. It's one of my all-time favorite stenciling techniques. So in each window for this fun card, we are going to either have a sentiment or a small mini scene. So with some of our mice and things, in the top window, we're actually going to stamp our sentiment. Here's to love, laughter, and happily ever after. We're going to use the Hot Lips Simon Says stamp ink for that. Then we have stamped the cake stand on a table, the little, like what I would say is flower girl, a present, and then the bride and groom. Now, there's a lot in this stamp set, you guys. So much more than what you're getting here. There's like a tree with a little kids sitting around the tree on the bench. There's another little individual cake image, and then there is a giant wedding image that is so, so pretty that doesn't even need anything else to it. It's a great one. It's going to fill, like, I would say it would fill a landscape style A2 size card, and it is gorgeous. But I took little parts and pieces of that, the individual images, and that's what we're using for our card here. Very, very simple coloring. I'm using Shadow Mauve to add hints of color to my wedding dress, and then pulling out that color with a blender to kind of just soften that effect. I still want it to look, you know, white-ish, but it definitely needs something to kind of help bring it to life. And then the tucks on our other mouse, all grays. That's going to be like gray and pale gray. The mice themselves are platinum brown and warm gray too, so they're a different gray color combination. And then our flower girl, her dress is going to be just like the bride's, so shadow mauve. And then just some hints of color that we have used in other projects. So pinks and reds, a little green for grass, and then some grays for the table. Very, very quick, easy coloring here. And then we will die cut these and build our windows with these images. And just like before, don't forget to how about draw in the faces with a black fine tip pen, whiskers, noses, all of that good stuff. Just makes those sweet little critters come to life. So here's the present. We're going to color really quickly. I picked pinks and reds. I do want to mention that for some of my accent images, so the cake and the gift, to tie into the colors I chose for the background. I struggled with picking colors for the background of this. I wanted to do something like more elegant, but these are kind of cutesy images. And ultimately, I decided that there are so many neutral colors in the images as far as coloring that I really, really wanted my background to pop. I wanted it to have color. And that's why I opted for those colors. But these would be great for a Valentine's type themed card as well. So if you have some of the Anita Jeram Valentine's images, or any company, anything really, definitely doesn't have to be Anita Jeram. Just we're using Anita Jeram today, and that's kind of where my mind is going. Wouldn't those be cute on this for a Valentine's or love themed card? There's also a new little mini anniversary set. I think that would be cute. Maybe you do something similar to this, but you do a standard A2 size card with one window. There's also an alignment stencil tool that does one window. Or you can use this window, and the alignment tool stencil I used for this card, and instead of stenciling all three, you stencil one, you stencil two, whatever you want to do there. You do not have to do them all. I did because I wanted to have, I wanted it to be consistent. Like, I wanted 3 windows on my card, and I wanted to showcase as much of that heart stencil as possible. That's really the reason. And as many of the dies, I guess, or dies, stamps and dies, the images as possible as well. This is another example of amazing die cutting. The dies for this set are going to die cut every little nook and cranny. That's going to be around the cake toppers. That's going to be around our little flower girl, the mice, everything. They die cut super close up. We will be adhering the images with foam adhesive squares, or foam adhesive strips, because there are some little teeny tiny areas on these images. But I'm just going to pop them out here and kind of show you my thought process. I'm just popping out those little pieces. Look at these, how cute! I just love them. Gosh, our industry has so many great products. Don't you guys agree? Okay, we're gonna pop that up. And it just kind of naturally, I feel like, fits that shape best. So I've gone ahead and adhered all of them with my foam adhesive, and I'm taking some little clear, I think these are the boiled sugar droplets from Trinity Stamps. They're hearts shaped, of course, because that's going to match my card perfectly. And we're going to adhere a bunch of these, place this on a white slimline card base that measures 3.5 by 8.5 inches. We're going to take some Nuvo Crystal Drops in White Blizzard, and we're going to add a little sparkle to our wedding dress and to the Flower Girl dress to finish off our card. Thank you guys so much for spending part of your day with me and watching this video showcasing brand new Anita Jeram images for Colorado Craft Company. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Anita Jeram images that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.